A very good evening to all our panelists on Debate 1 tonight. Let's say hello to Sushant Sareen, Senior Fellow at the Vivekananda International Foundation, also joining us from Delhi. With me in the studios, former High Commissioner to Pakistan, G Parthasarathy, and from Islamabad, we have Air Vice Marshal Abid Rao, as well as Lieutenant Colonel Shafqat Saeed. But first question to Major General D Bakshi, who also joins us from Delhi. Major General D Bakshi, is Pakistan feeling irrelevant after the snub to Nawaz Sharif in New York? Is this a desperate attempt to retain some sort of relevance?
You know, I would go a step further and state that it is very unfortunate that the entire state of Pakistan seems to have acquired an obsessive, compulsive disorder called Kashmir. For the last 60 plus years, they have been ranting and raving on this subject till the world is sick of it. And we thought we had moved ahead, we had gone past, we had adopted a bilateral approach, especially after very specific agreements between the two countries to this effect. But once again, we found that under pressure from his military, Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif was forced. You could quite see the sharp contrast between the two prime ministers from South Asia. One was self-assured, he came with a thumping mandate, he came with a brute majority that has given him a clear mandate to govern. He spoke with that confidence, he pitched his address at the global level of the global commons, global concerns, etc. But here was Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif under pressure from his deep state, the military ISI complex, in the form now of Shri Quadri and Imran Khan, and forced to toe the military line. The very line that he had, in his election campaign said that he wanted to make a new opening towards India, he wanted to improve commercial relations, etc., etc. And here we have the poor gentleman under such tremendous pressure from his own polity that he is forced to change his tune. And now that they have been rebuffed so thoroughly at the UN General Assembly, United Nations treatment of the true Prime Minister, they start a study in contrast.
Exactly.
So they come back and now they come up with Siachen. And, I think it is
Major General
about time
Bakshi,
that we tell Pakistan.
Major General Bakshi, let's ask our guest from Pakistan, from Islamabad, this very question. Air Vice Marshal Abid Rao, good evening, and also Lieutenant Colonel Shafqat Saeed. Is Pakistan smarting? Because it's a major diplomatic snub. It's embarrassment at the UNGA and the US, isn't it, for Pakistan? Now, is this that reaction?
Whom you want me to answer, or can Shafqat Saeed?
Air Vice Marshal Abid Rao, please go ahead, and then we'll bring in Lieutenant Colonel Shafqat Saeed also.
Okay, good evening to all the participants. I don't know why are you harping on the word snubbing. I mean, there was nothing in Prime Minister Modi's speech. He admitted that this is a bilateral issue that needs to be resolved. His objection is restricted to the spirit of Simla Agreement, which says Kashmir is a bilateral issue.
With all due respect, sir, he barely touched upon the issue. With all due respect, he barely touched upon the issue. In fact, other than the global rebuff, even the Indian Prime Minister barely touched upon the issue, because for India and for the Indian Prime Minister, this is not the prime agenda.
He did. Well, that is the problem with India, that you call it a problem, you talk in Simla Agreement, you have it in 99 agreement of Mr. Vajpayee and Nawaz Sharif Lahore declaration, that this will be resolved through peaceful negotiation. Now, after a few years, you have started saying there is no problem.
Peaceful negotiations, you've quoted Simla Agreement and 1999, recent developments, peaceful negotiations, bilaterally, right? Bilaterally, right?
They will continue.
No, bilaterally, right?
Listen to me, please.
Then why is Pakistan and why is Tasnim Aslam quoting 1948 and the UN resolution and going back to UN? If you say because this is a recent agreement, Simla Agreement and 1999 Lahore Declaration.
India has not agreed 1999 Lahore Declaration, in which we even agreed that this will not be mentioned as a core issue. It will be a composite dialogue. India is backing out. A dialogue.
Who's backing out? Who's doing the volte-face, sir? With all due respect, who is doing the volte-face? Who is dragging, who is ranting about Kashmir and making it a single largest issue rather than composite dialogue and making the center of everything?
But sir, would you care to explain how you say India is the one that's backing out? Would you like to explain how you say that India is the one that's backing out?
As recent as August or the talks to be held on 25th August, to be specific, were refused by India. I mean, this same...
Exactly, and the world knows the reason for that.
You know the
world knows the reason for that. It was India that had in fact extended the opportunity in the first place. But India was forced to call off those foreign secretary level talks because your envoy went and met with separatists. How can the blame for that be put on India? It's just preposterous.
Suppose the talks had happened and the protest could have been lodged then also.
But how can the talks be allowed to go ahead?
A diplomatic way of protesting. But when you say you will not talk to Pakistan, you are prolonging the disease.
Please, again you stand corrected there, Air Vice Marshal. Because, yes, Lieutenant Colonel Shafqat Saeed and Sushant Sareen coming to you. Will you please stand corrected there? Because the Prime Minister, standing at the UNGA, said, we still want to talk to Pakistan, but in a conducive atmosphere. Who vitiated the atmosphere? Wasn't it Sartaj Aziz who, after listening to what the Prime Minister said at the UNGA, accepted that meeting with the separatists was ill-timed? He's on record saying that.
Yep. See,
and there also Pakistan has done a flip today.
In the international community, you want to project your face as a very peaceful and peace-loving country.
No, we want to say, sir, we don't change our stance. We don't do U-turns and we don't run around in circles.
No, but sir, why don't you answer Anand's question there? He's specifically talking to you about what Sartaj Aziz has said in New York. In fact, he categorically said that, Pakistan's National Security and Foreign Affairs Advisor Sartaj Aziz saying, in this case, perhaps the timing was not right because the substantial discussion on Kashmir was yet to start. If your own person is admitting the timing was not right because that is the reason that the talks got derailed, how can it be blamed on India? Let's bring in Sushant Sareen now because he's been wanting to say something. Sushant Sareen, would you like to come in on this point? Because it's again the same point they keep going back to, that it was India that's responsible for the cancellation of talks.
Look, number one, as far as the foreign secretary level talks were concerned, I don't know why everybody is getting so excited about those talks, either because they were going to be held or because they were going to be cancelled. These are two bureaucrats who would have met and would have tried to explore how these talks would take place. There was nothing substantive which was really going to be on the agenda, and that is whatever they were going to talk about can happen anytime. But I think it was very important from India's point of view to tell the Pakistanis that while we are willing to engage with you on a bilateral level, if you are going to bring in extraneous factors, or you are going to bring in these separatists and focus a finger in the eye, that's not going to be acceptable. The first time this was conveyed to them in practically as many, in such terms, was when the Prime Minister of Pakistan was invited for the swearing-in ceremony. At that point of time, I think certain red lines were clearly laid down. That the red lines were violated by the Pakistani High Commissioner is something very unfortunate. I don't know whether he did it because his Foreign Office told him, or the superior authority, which is the GHQ in Rawalpindi, told him to do this. But I think that was extremely unfortunate. He should have avoided it. Having said that, I think what Mr. Modi said in the UNGA is very clear. He's made it very clear to the Pakistanis that, look, you want to talk Kashmir, you have to create a conducive environment. You can't put a gun to our head. Now, our Pakistani guests keep talking about a peaceful environment or peaceful negotiations. How can peaceful negotiations take place when you are stoking the fires of hatred in your country against India? You are continuing to run those training camps inside Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. You are once again ratcheting up the violence levels in Kashmir, or at least planning to do this. There are credible reports that you are trying to push some of these terrorists back into Kashmir. In such an environment, how can any kind of negotiation take place? And I think successive Indian governments have made it clear to Pakistan that India will negotiate, but not with a gun pointed at its head.
Exactly.
And just because we are willing to negotiate or discuss this issue with you does not mean that we accept anything at all what you say on Kashmir. In fact, we have our own very strong position on Kashmir, which is that you are in illegal occupation of a large part of that state.
And they've also not
vacated, and that is what we want to talk
Sushant
to them
Sareen, we just bring in Lieutenant Colonel Shafqat Saeed. You have a point to make, sir, and let's go back to the two rants that's been there, Kashmir and Siachen. Let's break it down and let Pakistan come clean on whether they have kept their end of the bargain, because they've jumped from clause 3 of the UN resolution that they keep going back to. They've forgotten the in-between conveniently. Before this harp on plebiscite happens, there is something which Pakistan was supposed to do. They have not found time to do that since 1948.
Okay, sir, you are right. It was not just by Pakistan. It was not one-side failure. India also showed reluctance in vacating the Indian-held Kashmir.
No. Why did that happen? Why did that happen, sir? Who's given away part of that disputed territory already? Who's altered demographically the entire scenario, the entire face of that Pakistan-occupied Kashmir? Who's handed off territory to China and changed demographically the entire location? Who's done all of that? It's been done by Pakistan. India has not done it. Pakistan was supposed to move out all its troops, tribes, all those people who moved into that area before this entire issue of plebiscite happens. Can Pakistan commit to doing that?
Okay, when you want me to speak, tell me.
Go ahead, sir.
Okay, well, now please you bear with me for some time so that I can utter my sentence completely. There are 2-3 things. You are ranting and your rhetoric of training camps and Pakistan assisting terrorism would be the biggest impediment in creating the confidence building measures between India and Pakistan to embark on useful, purposeful dialogue between India and Pakistan.
Absolutely.
Now coming to the UN resolution, now coming to the Indian resolution. First of all, please identify the core problem, the real issue, and that is the objective should be peace in the subcontinent. If you want that, you have to support negotiations. And whatever has happened so far, it is always India which has started the negotiation between India and Pakistan. And whatever Pakistan was meeting the separatists or whatever color you give it to it, simple is that it was India which said no to the sectarial level meeting. My friend said
again you
that
go back to
we
those
were
talks.
very excited about it. Please listen to me, ma'am. You said that India was unnecessarily excited about the sectarial level talk and it would have not produced any result. But please, that was the foundation of the
No, but that's the point. Lieutenant Colonel Saeed. Lieutenant Colonel Saeed, the point is, you know, all the issues that you talk about.
Nawaz Sharif
all the issues that you talk about have preconditions to them. None of the preconditions are met. You're talking about us bringing up terror and you're calling it a rant, but isn't it a fact that Hafiz Saeed is a free man in your country? He's a man who's been labeled a terrorist. No, but he's been labeled a terrorist by the United States, by the United Nations.
What do you think about Hafiz Saeed?
If we are going to bring up terror, it is a valid concern.
He is just a normal man. He has got no portfolio. He's not the Prime Minister.
Mr. Parthasarathy, you know, respond to this, because once again, all the allegations, whether it's about the plebiscite, whether it's about Siachen, whether it's about Kashmir in general, or these cancelled talks, every time the attempt from Pakistan side is to put the onus on India. But the fact is, the bottom line here is nothing can move further when there's an atmosphere of terrorism and threat.
Let me, we have very two.
Is India alone the judge for preconditions?
Right, Air Vice Marshal Rao, please, we're bringing in G. Parthasarathy. Please listen to him, then I'll come across to you again.
I think we have two distinguished officers from the Air Force and Army in Pakistan. But a few things I want to set right on a strategic perspective. On Siachen, the fact is that beyond the Shok River, the line of control was defined but never demarcated. It was defined as lying north to the glaciers beyond the Shok River. Now, north through the glaciers, to the glaciers, obviously means in a mountainous terrain along the high mountain ridges. Problem arose when Pakistan in 1972 started circulating maps about the line of control proceeding to the Karakoram Pass, which would create a Pakistan-Chinese tie-up north of our defenses. Therefore, that was preempted by troops moving into the high mountain ridges of the Saltoro range. There is no such thing as a Siachen dispute. Pakistan is nowhere near the Siachen glacier.
Correct.
The troops are decision on the Saltoro range. Now, therefore, we have discussed this, but the fact of the matter is Pakistan is not willing to delineate that line of control to the Saltoro range. That's one. Two, things have changed also materially and strategically, because not only was the original Pakistani map showing a link up with the Chinese at the Karakoram Pass, but the Chinese have also moved south of the Karakoram Pass to Chumar, and that's being sorted out bilaterally with them. I think we'll sort it out. But in strategic terms, there can be no question about pulling out of Siachen, given the nexus between Pakistan and China in the northern areas. So, yes, we can discuss it, but you are nowhere near Siachen. We are at the Saltoro range, and we can discuss it on how to maintain peace, but withdrawal will be part of, or demilitarization would be part of an overall Kashmir settlement. Okay? Now, on talks itself, talks were resumed in 2004 following a categorical assurance from President Musharraf that territory under Pakistan's control would not be used for terrorism against India. Now, they collapsed after the Mumbai attack, and I'm sure even my friends in Pakistan would not deny that the guys came from across the Arabian Sea from Karachi. So,
They will always deny it, Mr. Parthasarathy. They continue to deny it.
You can deny it. No, you can deny it. No, just a minute. The boat numbers have been provided, and the Japanese have given us that it was supplied to your people in Lahore.
Mr. Parthasarathy, no matter how much we try and convince them, they will not exceed. They will not concede. Their own media has exposed the origins of Ajmal Kasab.
Let me complete.
But they will not still accept.
Let me complete. I'm not going into who's right and who's wrong.